Hello, everyone. This is Scott Restivo with Crocan Software, and thank you for joining this NITRO Studio workshop. We do these workshops once a month, usually towards the end of the month. We've been doing them for a few months now in order to get people up to speed and interested and see some of the characteristics and features of NITRO Studio and give them a chance to ask questions. Now, it's a webinar where we don't open up the floor for people to talk, but there is a place where you can enter questions into the questions box that comes with the webinar screen, and we'll be keeping a close eye on that and trying to answer the questions so you can help us guide what what questions you have and where you need to get some further insights into NITRO Studio. Now, I think everybody who joined this webinar pretty much knows what NITRO Studio is, but just to give a brief background on it, everybody probably knows Crocan Software. We've been in business 20 years doing SharePoint and Office type applications, SharePoint for the last 12 or 15 years. Before that, we were doing stuff on Microsoft Outlook, public folders, but really SharePoint, Office 365 have been our focus for well over 10, 12, 15 years now, whatever. And we've been building these applications on it. We have a number of applications in use for organizations of all sizes and shapes around the world. And as we went through it and went through the SharePoint 2007, 2010, 2013, 2016, we found the need to enhance SharePoint with a bunch of web parts that were not there in the native SharePoint platform. And this grew into apps for the Office 365, and now we're into the modern UI and SPFX. So we have a whole range of on-premises web parts and applications that run on on-premises. We have apps in the Office 365 and applications that run in Office 365 based on those apps, and also the SPFX framework, which is modern UI. And out of that, grew the NITRO Studio as the platform of development, not just for us to build our applications. We have a number of applications, as I mentioned, or custom development projects, but also for individuals who are interested in building their own applications to fit a specific need or automate a specific process at their company, or replace InfoPath form or other legacy applications or even paper forms. They're able to do that by getting into NITRO Studios and building forms, workflows, and all the other features, of some of which I'll be able to show you today. And that's why we have these workshops, because we find that NITRO Studios is a very powerful and capable and interesting platform to work on to build applications and really enhance SharePoint on premises and Office 365 in ways that can really automate workflows and processes. And I'd say easy in some sense, that it's no code. I mean, it does require some thought to put together an application. How to structure an application requires some thought. And we'll go over some of that today, and how to put the elements of the application into some shape, comes from experience of building them, and we've been doing that for over 20 years. So let me jump in and just mention again that there's a question box, and we're really open to hearing questions and following the guide. Workshops are meant to be a little bit more interactive than a webinar where, I'm expounding on some theme that has to do with SharePoint. This is more like a interactive. And besides that, we think we have personal engagement. I see some very familiar names on the attendees, and so we do have an active engagement with some of you already, and we're looking to build on that and make NITRO even better given the feedback we get from our customers. So let me show you something that will start us off, and then we'll move into the NITRO Studio as kind of a structural, conceptual way of looking at the application development here. So let me go find that right slide here. It's in a different PowerPoint. And I'll start with this one. I think will work. Let's see. Okay, so what I need to do is get rid of this slide, escape out of that, and go show this slide from here. No, let me go. Hold on a second. I just got to get the switch to this one. So let me go here to this slideshow. Oh, well, I'll leave it like this. I mean, it's a workshop, so I don't have to be perfect on showing the exact slideshow. But what I'm showing you here is that in this slide right here, there is here's the conceptual point. There's SharePoint Office 365 down here. There is the NITRO Studio with its 3 elements, which I'll talk about in a moment. And then there's the business applications and custom development that comes out of that. as well as you can go build your own applications out of it also. So going over to this slide that goes a little bit more into depth into NITRO Studio, you'll see that there's 3 areas that we focus on. The 3 areas are UI UX, which is engaging and empowering users. The other is workflows and business processes, about streamlining and automating the approvals or escalations or notifications, all those elements of what it takes to really move a application, a process from beginning to end. And then the reporting, which is a part that a lot of people ignore, but is actually very important to drive continuous improvement and get an iterative analysis of what's going on in your application so that you can keep improving it, so that maybe you're reducing the number of calls that come in, reducing the number of support issues or tickets or requests, or giving some better way that to manage the whole request process. So the reporting kind of iteratively affects the UI UX and the workflow. So it's whole process working together. Now, as we put these into action in NITRO Studio, we see that there's all these elements. The first thing you want to think about when you're structuring an application using NITRO Studio is, how are you going to engage and empower the user? How are you going to, what's the UI UX that we can have for them? Well, one is the the most obvious, I should say, are the forms. I mean, everybody still uses forms. So there's a form to fill out. We have a whole forms showcase of what we can do in NITRO Studio, of the various types of forms we can create. It's quite a wide variety of possible forms that we can create here. And we have a whole form showcase. If you go to our website and you go to the section on InfoPath replacement, hello website, there's a form showcase we have now. I don't know if you know about this, a number of other resources and webinars and things, but I'll go over to the form showcase and show you that NITRO Studio can be used to build any number and types of forms in all kinds of shapes and sizes and layouts and design. And this is right here on CrowCanyon InfoPath replacement form showcase. You look at those, and we also accept the challenge of, hey, send us one of your forms that you need to replicate in SharePoint Office 365. Maybe it's a paper form or an old Excel form or even InfoPath or something. And we'll see about how we can do that using our forms manager to replicate it in there. And that becomes the UI element. UI UX is the form, but there's more to it than that, because we've moved into this idea of a self-service portal. Here's in the classic UI, a self-service portal. So a user, let me step back a second and say there's this, just to give you a little bit more context of what I'm talking about. There's a SharePoint list here that's an access request list. And a person can come here and create a new item, whether they open it up from here or whatever, then create a new item, and that's going to give you the form that I just talked about, those kind of forms that I was just showing you. I mean, in the form showcase, and the user can come and fill it out. But we find that in a lot of cases, especially with end users who are not that familiar with SharePoint, you don't want to necessarily drive them to the back end to go fill out a form. This is kind of it's a little bit overwhelming for some people to find it in the quick launch and then click this. We found that a lot of people just want to have a nice, simple, colorful buttons that they can click, big, bright buttons, just like Facebook or one of those other modern UI kind of interfaces, and they just click, say, okay, I want to do a leave request, I just click here. That way they only have to deal with the immediate stuff they're dealing with. And that's one way to structure the UI UX, is that you embed the form more or less inside this portal. And we call these the application portals or self-service portals. And now you have ability for them to fill it out. And these forms are highly customizable in the same way the NITRO forms are, to make them look like however you want. There's the auto fill in from the Active Directory. There are dynamic sections, show or not show, depending on other selections. There's cascaded lookups. There's all kinds of interaction with database. I mean, many, many ways you can structure this form to be appropriate to the question being, or the request being fulfilled. And that gives the users, if you look at this, if I go one step back, they just come here. Now, this is highly, highly configurable, this portal. So you can make this look pretty much any way. Well, there's a lot of flexibility. We have now one thing, I don't know if people know or we've said enough about it, but we've now made this classic portal a lot more configurable than it used to be. There's a whole configurable element to it. I'm not showing it right now. This is the older style of our classic portal. We have a new style that is a lot more configurable. I don't have that up right now, but we'll go into what you can do with the portal settings here. and just show you that a portal like this is very configurable with different, header sections, footer sections, menu sections, background images, and you're coming in here and setting up maybe what's on the home page, the portal pages, all the different things that make up this portal are highly configurable. So you have your own logo, your own colors, what particular boxes you want here, what you want in your FAQs. This is all set up through the portal and the portal settings. Now, I don't know if people who are using our programs are using this portal. I would encourage you to look at it as a way to make it simpler for users to engage with your application rather than go into, I'll click over to the share button, this kind of interface versus this kind of interface right here. It's just a simpler and easier and more direct way. And also you can tie that into your intranet portal as a link from whatever portal you have. And in a way, this comes sort of an ersatz portal, sort of in some sense a portal for applications. And also there's the idea of you can do multi-departmental. It's not just like only IT help desk or only HR. There could be IT help desk, HR, purchasing, and all kinds of activities that go to different lists on the back end, different sites on the back end, but are interfaced to the user through this portal. And you have a multi-departmental portal. And then when you want to see the tickets, you can view tickets. One thing we have in this configurable portal is a tabbed list view. So you can see the tabs, the IT tickets, the HR tickets. I'm not seeing it right here, but we do have that ability in our list view. Now, I'm going to move over to another aspect of the portal, which is the modern UI. This is not a very good one. It's very basic, but I wanted to show that you can come in here and modify this greatly and use the modern UI. And you can go into the edit mode. And then when you're in edit mode, you can come in here and edit this portal and then start adding in all the web parts you want. The beauty of this modern UI, and if you're not using modern UI, you might want to consider it. You have to be on Office 365 or SharePoint 2019. And the idea is that it's highly configurable and you can lay out this any which way you want. You can add a new section. That section can have 3 columns. The section can have 1/3 right, 1/3 left, all kinds of different things. And in each section, you can place any web part you want. So you're really structuring your portal page in a way that is really appropriate to your needs and your users' interface that you're doing it. So you're engaging and empower users with the UI UX, right? So you're saying, okay, here's a way we can do it. We can add in any of these web parts that are here. And what Crow Canyon has done, the good guys at Crow Canyon here have added on a number of web parts that are modern UI web parts that can be plopped right in there. And say you wanted to show a report in your portal, you can. You just go here and then you have to configure it with edit web part. Let me do that in a second, but also show you some of the other things that can be added to this portal. So you can configure these different portals, whether for end users to enter in tickets or staff to use it as a workspace to get the list of assigned tickets they have, or managers to get reports. Very, very interesting and fun way to design a page, giving you the ability with these web parts we added to make it even more possible. Let's put a list search in and see what that looks like. Again, you have to configure these things, what list you're going to search and what's the defaults and things. But what this is building on in the modern UI portal is there some report that you can have, like tickets by category. It's using a report you already created in the back end through the NITRO reports. And now I don't even know if this will let me just try this and see if that puts a report there if I republish it. And I don't know how many people are working with the modern UI, but it's really quite convenient when you're creating pages like this and you you want to arrange it in the way that makes sense for you and your users to work on. So let's see if it gives us that report now. Here.
Hey folks, my name is Jocelyn. I'm here with Scott in the back end with the questions. And Scott, there's a question that came up that says, can you explain how this would be a better option than using Power Apps?
Yeah, I can explain that. There are, okay, how NITRO Studio would be a better option than Power Apps? Yeah, we get people, okay, how to put this in a way. And let me just tell you, we had an example yesterday where somebody said, we're looking for something that's better than, not so simple as the MS Forms tool, which is totally inadequate for building applications, but we don't want something as complicated and complex and as Power Apps. Power Apps, we have 2 people come up to us when we're at these trade shows, and I'll just be honest, this is what, real world experience. And there's people who never use Power Apps and they're like all excited because they just went to a session at the show and they think, oh, Power Apps, flow. Then they go use it. And then we have, then we have people who come up to us and like after using Power Apps and Flow for maybe a month or two, trying it out, they're like, so there's the people who never used it are all excited about it, and the people who tried it and are like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that Power App. It's too complicated. Show me NITRO Studio. NITRO Studio is a Goldilocks solution between the simplicity of MS Forms and the complexity of Power Apps. Power Apps also is just, you're talking about forms in Power Apps, only that are not even, it isn't even a SharePoint based. It uses SharePoint, but it's really based in the Dynamics world. And you're trying to mold it to use the SharePoint capabilities, where NITRO Studio comes right from, it's built ground up to use SharePoint and Office 365 capabilities. Let me show you some of the webinars you might want to check out that we've done here in infographics that will lead you a little more in this direction, and this is something we can address. In fact, I was thinking, well, we did a webinar on it, and we're going to do another webinar soon explaining a lot about this. So let's go here. You asked about Power Apps. This is particularly on MS Forms. Okay, so if you want to, plenty of resources on. But here's one by Joel Olson, MVP. They did with us, and there's the infographic and there's webinar. Here's the thing about Power Apps not being able to support legacy features of InfoPath, how NITRO Studio is the placement that you've been looking for. See, we built NITRO Studio specifically for SharePoint and Office 365 applications. Power Apps is more like put together and supposed to be doing, supposed to use SharePoint, but it wasn't built natively for it. It's more for Dynamics and 365. I think anybody who asks that question, I would say go try Power Apps. Go give it a try. Let us know. And most people who do that come back and say, ugh. I mean, that's almost what the expression, they come up to, ugh. Do you have anything better? So Power Apps, Flow, Power BI are being pushed by Microsoft as the Power Platform. And we are Microsoft related. We have a lot of we're a preferred partner of Microsoft. We're not going to say they're not useful or not good or don't have value, but we say NITRO Studio is a much easier, much more accessible, much more affordable solution for building forms and workflows on top of SharePoint and Office 365. It's built natively for it. It's built specifically, NITRO Studio is built specifically for it. And the other part is we don't necessarily preclude the use of Power Apps and Flow. We did a webinar here called Best Friends Forever, Flow and Power Apps. Flow and NITRO Studio, Best Friends Forever. Great webinar back when, I don't know, Johnson was like in March or something here. Where is it? It's Best Friends Forever, BFF. This one right here, how we can launch flows from NITRO Studio. And sometimes people use Power Apps to build a mobile app and then use that to access our application. So we're not saying it's one or the other, you have to preclude the use. It's finding the right use for the right tool, right? That's what you want to do. You want to find the right use for the right tool. And that's what this is about, the what to use when infographic right here is all about that. When to use this, when to use that, and how does NITRO Studio fit into this whole mix? So you don't use a, hammer to drill a hole. You don't use a, so NITRO Studio gives you a very, very comprehensive platform, not just forms, workflows, reports, printing, cascade lookups, conditional formatting, AI services like chatbots, a full, complete suite of application creation possibilities, not just forms, not just workflows, not just whatever, and then cobbling it all together, trying to make an application. Does that answer the question, or? Okay,
Yes,
good.
that did.
I could
Yes.
go on and on and on.
Yes.
I mean,
She said that was really helpful, that she'll check out these
okay.
resources, as we encourage everyone to.
All right. So I was working on this kind of portal idea, that the UI UX, and you can arrange this any way you want using the web parts that you can plop in from our from add a web part when you edit in the page. Also, you can see that we have a chat bot going here that's going to, ask Gene. I don't know why they call it Gene, but there's our chat bot that can be here to answer questions if you want to add a chat bot on. Now, what I'm saying about our NITRO Studio, again, versus the Power Apps thing, is that this is a full comprehensive suite of capabilities that cover the UI UX, the workflows and processes, and the reporting in ways that we have to perform. So here's the thing: we have to build applications, and we're building them for so many customers that we have, that we are continuously improving them through feedback and what the needs are of real world situations of organizations around the world. And that's what's embedded not only in the Crow Canyon expertise and experience in our development team, but also in how we express it through the NITRO Studio and give those capabilities to the citizen developer at the same time. So I could go on and on about the portal, this whole world in itself. I'm just trying to say that there's other ways for users to access, to enter in or complete a ticket or request or issue or problem or complaint. They can do it through coming to the back end SharePoint. They could do it through a nice looking portal. They also can do it through an email. Email comes in and is converted right over to a ticket through our NITRO Studio email synchronization capabilities. The NITRO Studio has many, many capabilities, and I showed you here in this list here. This is just some of it. I guess email synchronization is over here. But the point is that they can enter in tickets many, many ways, whatever suits you, including mobile devices, email, forms, SharePoint forms, portals, multi-departmental portals. So when you structure an application, you have to think, what is the best way, or what are the best ways, as a plural, what multiple faceted ways of entering in the request is there? And also the other consideration that we're adding on here is when you're thinking about how people are engaging with this, could a chatbot be a solution for them? Because now what you're doing is, if the chatbot can answer the question, you're saving I call it the double save, double save situation, where you're saving the time of the user who's asking the question, because he or she is getting that answer immediately or within a reasonable period of time. And you think about this, you're saving the time of the staff member who traditionally, when you enter a form, they have to respond in some way. So the user's there waiting for his or her response. The staff person has to sit there and get it and then spend time resolving it or coming up with some kind of answer to respond back. So there's the delay on the user side, and there's the impact of the workload on the staff side that can be precluded by having interfaces where people can engage with a chatbot or search a knowledge base here, find answers themselves through these knowledge base type inquiries. And now we're using natural language processing with this, so that the person can come in and type in, what my printouts, my printouts are faded or something like that, and it would know natural language processing. We're able to suggest certain articles that could perhaps solve the person's problem in real time. Of course, the old style is you got to put toner low or something, it'll give you an answer. That's when it's basing the search just on the specific words that are put there. But we're using now Azure Cognitive Services to do natural language processing in our knowledge base in order to give answers back that don't need to, that follow natural questions more than specific keywords that have to be entered in, like search terms. So we're doing a lot to move the UI UX into a place where there is more capability to preclude the need to put in. I call it like the formless form. And we're working on getting to a place where there isn't even like anything to enter except a box that says, how can we help you? And the person types something in and do what the person types in. We're able to parse it out and determine that they're asking for a change to their benefits, or they're asking to purchase something, and things like that. There's all kinds of cool ways we can go. And Jocelyn, let's do a workshop one time on AI services and show everything. Maybe some people are interested in moving that direction. It's very preliminary right now, but I think it's cool and a really good way to do it.
Well, and
But even
it's also setting us apart, I think, from a lot of folks that are trying to also build InfoPath replacements, because we have that and it's sort of propelling us forward. So that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I've been doing this like 20 years and building forms, and it's cool to build forms that are really like cool and really like efficient and get the information. But I started thinking about this over the last few years and saying, well, what's really the purpose of the form? And as you go to an electronic world, you can consider other alternatives, like, you're really just trying to answer a question, and fulfill a need, or get an approval going or something like that. And then what are other ways you can do it that don't necessarily require the rigidity of a form that was a legacy of the paper world. So anyway, it's a whole theoretical thing. And, I don't know what you guys spend your time thinking about, but that's what I do. That's crazy as it sounds, but that's what I think about. So one of the things, if you're going to use the form, you might as well put in get as much automation in it as possible, right? So already we're auto-filling by filling in from Active Directory through the user information field. In fact, I'm just go back to the access request and the old, these forms pretty much act the same. They have the same capabilities. Let me go over here to a new item on the back end, whether it shows up in the portal or not. Well, that's the same kind of functionality built with our NITRO Forms Designer. So when you come in here, you can have many ways of creating and showing this form, as I showed in the form showcase. But there's a lot of things going on here. It could be mobile response. It could be mobile, show up on a mobile device. You can do stuff like if you choose a certain settings, you're going to show a new section right here that then you can fill that in because it's relevant to somebody who wants access to the database, SQL database. We got to know the database server name, the database name, and all those other things, who the manager is. And of course, the workflow will send a message to James, who's the manager, saying Joe Schmo wants access to such and such server, such and such, blah, blah, blah. And it maybe needs an approval process, and there might be associated task with it, and on and on and on. So the form can be very, very facilitating of the workflow that's going on if it's structured right. If the form, you want to gather information you need, but not more than you need, and also make it so that it's dynamic enough to show what if for a particular category, a particular request type, only show the fields and information you need, or to a particular user you need. Okay. So how to do all that is, I'm wondering if we should do like a deep dive into NITRO Studio, or let me think. Let me go back to the PowerPoint and talk a little more about these other things, and then we'll go more into the NITRO Studio. So I talked a lot about UI UX and how to engage and empower users and all the different ways you can make this so dynamic and use knowledge base, use chatbots. Just really thinking of ways to make the experience as quick and efficient as possible to save not only users time but also staff time and answer their questions. So that's forms, portals, chatbots, knowledge base, how you brand it, how it looks, the AI services. All right, so the middle column then, moving over to that, is workflows and business processes. And how do you automate it? You got the information in, there's a question, somebody needs something, there's an approval process, plus all our workflows and custom actions what are able to put into the application. This is really where a lot of thought goes into the application. What is going to go on here, and what kind of workflow do I want to do? Now, one thing you can do when you're thinking about this is map it out with one of those tools and say, like Visio or something. And there's other, what they call BPMN, which is business process management notation type tools that you can have that will map it out, that if this, then that, branch here, go there. Or you can just kind of like, you do it ad hoc because it's not that complex a process. It's like a travel request goes here for approval, then it goes there for processing. Maybe it doesn't need that elaborate a workflow diagram. Then you want to implement those in the NITRO Studio tools we have, the NITRO workflows, the custom actions, the approval process, the alerts, notification, the automation. And this is where you really, the rubber hits the road in a sense of how to make the process as productive and efficient as possible. Now, our team has, let's put it this way, we put many, many things into the workflows and to the custom actions, and I'll show you those in a moment. And then how to really use those the most efficiently and effectively is like, how do you query lists? How do you invoke workflows? What kind of scripts do you want to add on in there? If you really want to get deep into the workflow process and how to automate it. And lastly, and I'll go briefly on this, is the reporting and to drive the continuous cycle improvement, having dashboards where the real-time or historical, you have real-time dashboards or historical trend analysis to give a record of that. So a record of what happened in the request management process and where it could be improved. Okay, so you want to look at those three structures. Now let's go into the three areas, the UI UX, the workflows and business processes and reporting, and then you want to implement them in your application. So I talked a lot about the forms and workflows, the forms and portals and those kind of things. So the forms would come from our NITRO forms. How do you build a form in NITRO? How do you structure that? This is something that's a long topic in and of itself, and we'll do workshops on it. We talk to you individually about how to do it. So I'll go into there, the forms in a moment, but I also want to go show you all the other elements of NITRO Studio and all the usefulness of what's here. You have NITRO workflows, you have the reporting, you have the Power Portal. Now, if you're using our applications, I hope you're fully aware of all the capabilities of these different apps and web parts. You can do approval processes, you can do advanced lookup with cross-site lookups, you can do the AI services like the natural language processing and the chatbot. You can brand the interface to have different quick launches, different logos, different colors. You can have cascade lookups, just category, issue type, city, state, that kind of thing. Conditional formatting, where you're showing KPIs and progress bars, as well as highlighting certain fields, if like say high priority or whatever. Custom actions that can go on buttons that are buttons on either the list ribbon or on the form itself that invoke certain actions, such as generate a document or send a notification or update an item or query a list or numerous things. This is really, like I said, where the rubber hits the road is the workflows and the actions. Email management to manage emails coming in and what's sent out, to set up canned responses, automated responses and templates. Email synchronization, emails are converted to tickets or requests or issues. The linked items, very important to have associated items where you have the main item, the parent, and they have a numerous child or child tickets, subtasks related to the parent, or you could have line items and repeated rows in a purchasing application. You can roll up different lists from different lists can be rolled up into one list, so it could be multiple departments showing up in one list. The tickets are from multiple departments showing up in one list. Search is very powerful. List search, we have a very powerful both for classic and modern UI. The list view, which can have a tabbed view of the list. Printing, where you can print out to Word documents now, as well as templates that we create to create invoices, purchase order, work orders, or any other kind of document, even contracts from the item, the SharePoint list item. Tiles and dials is part of the dashboards where you show in your, KPI, sort of like a global KPI, how many tickets are open, how many are closed, and the user info filler. All that shows up in your application as you go through it. If you have a dashboard here, you have a report center where you're showing reports. You have, the list showing up in different ways. So our NITRO Studio is continuously enhancing this application. So here we have conditional formatting turned in priority red. We have a report center from NITRO Reports showing you different kinds of reports you can have for this. This only has one report, but there's different reports you can create and show the whole report center. There's dashboards of I don't think this particular system has a good dashboard, but there's one over here with a good dashboard like this, where you can have a dashboard, a workspace with tiles. These are tiles and dials. There's a list search capability up here. So you can do all kinds of things to configure this system using the NITRO components to make it perform and structured the way you want. So let's look at the access request system a little bit more. We see there's a form, and we'll go into the forms designer and design that form a bit. And I always feel like I spend a lot of time on the forms designer. I could really go into workflows, custom actions, and all the other things, secondary.
Scott, if you could, you have a couple asks for you to just
Yeah,
show
yeah,
a slight bit of a few different
yeah.
apps. So
Read
you've
them
done
off to
that.
me.
But yeah, I mean, nope, there wasn't a specific. It was just, could we see a few of the different apps? And so I think you're starting with forms, which is great. And if we could look at two others, maybe that'd be great.
2 minutes left. Oh, people think this is a 30-minute webinar. Is that right?
Nope, we clarified it's a 45-minute, but just saying if we could look at a few, that would be great.
The dashboards have nothing to do with Power BI. We use our own dashboards that are independent of Power BI. Someone asked that question. So if you want to use Power BI, nothing's going to stop you from doing it. But the thing is, we don't need or use Power BI in our dashboards at all. Our dashboards are fully constructed with programming and apps we created, the tiles and dials. The other elements of their, of the dashboards are from our own development of the different components that make it up. Okay, I agree. Why rebuild? Somebody says, why rebuild when someone else has already taken the time to so
No, we're all set. We're all set, Scott. Keep going.
Oh,
Keep
there's
going. You're
something
good.
about pricing.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, the dashboards are updated when you refresh the page. That's a good question that the person's bringing up, and I like that, and that's good feedback. Are they updated in real time or not? There'll have to be a way to refresh the dashboard like every refresh. You could do a refresh in your browser, so it auto refreshes every such and such time. But I'm gonna bring that up, Justin. Make a note to bring that up with the dev team, and we'll get back to the questioner on that one. And I think that is a very good question about, can there be a way to update dashboard in real time? Good question. All right, so what are we showing here? We're showing some of the apps. Yeah, here is the forms designer. And this is where it's good to have one-on-one with people to say, can you do this in this form? Can you do that in this form? Okay, here's people may be familiar with this, but I want to show one thing here that I think that will be of interest to people. And let me go here and do that right now. We now have a forms control called the table. You may be familiar if you use Form Designer with all our other elements, but you may not be familiar with this table. You can come here and construct a table any size you want. Let's say it's 3x5. Then you can drag that table somewhere on your form. And this is where it gets quite interesting, because if you go here and you can add in a label here, it becomes a case ID there, or you can merge cells. Oops, you can merge cells together by going here and say you want to merge a couple cells. You can come here and merge cells. How many cells you want to merge? So you want to merge 2 columns, I mean. So now you can create a merge cell right here and put a different one right there. You may want to have, let's see, what would you put here? Some other field you want to put here. Let's call priority right here or something. So now you're starting to now I put that there. What happened to it? I put it right there. Come on, sit there. There it goes. Oh, it already exists on the form. Okay, won't let me do it on that same section. So let me put a something else here. Created month. I don't know. So you can drag a column there, and then it has spanning 2 fields. And then you can do stuff like you can merge others. So you can also do cell properties, where you can change the layout and the background of that cell to be maybe a blue color. Let's see what that does. And a border around it of with such and such here. And this is how we start to get, the different way of laying out this form. Let's say we went here and we wanted to merge cells. Want to merge 4 columns right here. I don't know if people know about this section here, but this ability. And then we want to put in some text right here. We go here and put a line, drop some line of text here, and then we type something in here. Please fill out the following information. Due to section 125 requirements. I don't know. You get so many different forms with so many different things on it. This is just purely like an idea I just thought of right now. But then you have that. And then you could go here and say, here's another section. You're going to have to fill out this information here, specifically by putting in different fields like, let me find some good, or you create your own a new column here if you want to, and put it in right there to do it. So you might do. I know I'm kind of choking on this a little here. Let me see. Let me make up a new column so you can show how you can have a new column here, and you might say section 125. It might be the name, section 125 name. So you come here, you create a new column. You say, okay, I want to put that in. Now it's part of my list here, so I can find it very easily just by going to type in 125. And now that can become part of the column right here. You could also do this and say, well, I don't really like the way that looks, so what I'm going to do here is override the display name, override the description. So what you're going to do here is this. Here's what you can do. Let's move this over here to the other. Oh man, let's take this out for a second. Second. I mean, put this here. And then what we want to do here is put in a label. So we put a little line, a line HTML here. And we just go here to our coding and take that out and put like section 125 name, maybe like this, and apply. And now we can go here and erase that here, override display name, and take that out so there isn't any display name there. Let's see if that works. Oh man, there was a way to do that. There's a way to remove that. It's a label. It's not display name, label. Do not show column label. There it is. And then apply that. So now that box has become like that. So what you're doing here is saying, this is actually, if you have the field name something, you can come in here and change this to something else. Maybe that's the section 125 name is the behind name, and this is some name that you want to give it for the user to put in. Put 125 name here. So even though the field is called section 125 name, the label can be something completely different, and it also can be bolded, and maybe you can even make it a different font, a little size if you want here, and then you have you're starting to build your form like this, and then you put text, more text up here. I mean, you start to see like there's so much you can do with this table layout to make the form look like the showcases that I was just showing you by monkeying around with different things. So let's get rid of let's just show that these are, I mean, I'm trying to show that there's different things you can do here to make this form look the way you want it to look. Now, what I really need to do at this point is find out what people want to do with their forms. I mean, I could show so many different thousand things with this form designer and other parts of Studio. What is the ones that are the most important for people? Jocelyn, any questions there that are guiding me on what I should show for in the rest of this
Well, I
workshop?
mean, one person said, can you show how to make parts of a form that appear based on a particular field lookup? Something like this part of the form with these specific questions only
Yeah, absolutely.
show when someone enters the department of such and such. Also,
Okay,
in terms of
let me show you.
feedback, we can, okay,
Uh,
yeah, let's do the first one and then we'll go to the second one.
Here I am configuring this. Let me do this because it'll show you a little more clearly if I'm doing this in tabs. So we have this SQL tab right here. I just changed from sections to tabs just so I could show you a little more that there's this tab called SQL. When it's in sections, it looks like this. So there's this section called SQL right here. This is the SQL section. When I go to configure this SQL section and I go to configure, there are different ways I can show the section. I could show it like normal, that so that it says section right here of SQL or not, or we'd had it so that there was no line right there, and so now there's nothing there. But still, this is a section. This whole area here is a section, we'll call it, right? And now this section has the ability to show or not show based on what we call permissions. So we have show SQL or hide SQL. So if you want to show the SQL, you show this section called the SQL section when for everyone when access to equals SQL. The field SQL equals SQL. The field access to equals SQL. And you hide it, of course, on the reverse of that when it's not equal to SQL. Now, notice that you could also show and hide based on who the user is. So you might have certain category, certain groups that are users who you want to show certain sections to, and certain other people you don't. And you could also have it on multiple conditions when it's this, and this are equal or not equal to something. You can add that in. So you can have very specific, not only on the section, but also on each individual column here. So say you only want to show assigned staff, you just set the permissions, either hide or show, add one in the hide or show, or read only for certain people under certain conditions. So you can do it either at the individual section level or you can do it at the individual column level. So when we go here to the access request system and we open up a new item, it will, through a very easy addition of show and hide, we can come here and say when the database is SQL, we're doing a cascaded lookup, then go to SQL. Now that section shows up. If it was a tab, that tab would show up. If we had done this so that only show this one name here, it would only show that one name, one column when that is selected. So that's one way we can do it. That's one way it's done, is by whether it's a cascade lookup or it could just be something entry you put into priority. When the priority is high, do this, show or not show, or when the requester is so and so, show or not hold that, or when the person logged in is so and so, only show or hide that section of the form. So that's how we do that. It's pretty cool little feature. Anything else there, Jocelyn, that we want to?
Yeah, there are a few more, and so folks, we can definitely follow up with you one-on-one as the time is run out. But
Well, no, let's keep going with the questions. I
okay,
mean, people
okay.
can stay on if they
So
want.
someone asked, can you add? Let's see. So let's see. To follow up what you were just showing, though, Scott, can you alter the permissions in SharePoint library permission settings? Was a follow up to that. And can you add a print button?
Yes, yes to all those
There's
things.
two. So altering permissions
Let's
and
go here and
print button.
show that
Okay.
we have a print. Let me open one of these up and show you what the printing's going on right here. Print is quite interesting. So we have this print button that's added by Crow Canyon. These are other custom actions added by our NITRO Studio, Crow Canyon NITRO Studio. These buttons are added through manipulation of our NITRO Studio configuration of it. This is the print manager. These are custom actions. These custom actions are set up in our custom actions, and they're added to the list ribbon because we decided to add them to the list ribbon when we configured the custom action. But printing will give you the option to print this list item, this item. You can have different templates. You could have a printout that looks like this. You have a printout that looks like that. All kinds of different printouts that you want to do depending on what template you want to do here. There's all fields printout, this printout, and then you could print it, save it as PDF, export it as an image, or email it. And how is this done? How is it decided how this looks? Is done in our app, the app in NITRO Studio called Print Manager. So you go to Print Manager for the access request list here. It has these three configured already. So if we go in and edit this, we just store those. We can come in and design this template to look just like how you want it to look, with different rich text formatting and placeholders and all kinds of choices here. And you could do, make some things bold and some things left justified, add logos in, images, add HTML if you want. People have come up with some very, very elaborate and designs so that the printout equals the form that you need, maybe for governmental or compliance purposes or just for how you want the corporate look to be. We are able to design it quite well in this. So it comes out that way. So when you have this access request printout 3 right here, and you press the print button and you choose that template, it's going to come out looking like that, and you can dress this up a lot better, a lot more, however you want to do for printing. You also have something here, we can generate a document. So one of our custom actions is to generate a document, and that's done in our custom actions right here. So you go to our custom actions, we're on the access request list, and now in the custom actions, what we're seeing is this one called generate document along with some of the others. So these ones are showing up, some as list ribbons, as items in the list ribbon. If you look back here, there are escalate, generate document, save attachments to OneDrive, assign request. This corresponds to this list right here, except for one of them is not set to show up in the list ribbon. It's set up to show someplace else. So if we go to generate document, we can actually go in and generate when you press the button, generate document, it's going to generate a document based and save it either as an attachment or in a library as whatever, a Word template or a list item template. Now we're using the access request printout 3 that we created in the print manager as our list item template. We also could use a Microsoft Word document if we wanted, and we're going to give it what file name, where it's going to be saved. It's going to be attachment on the current item, a PDF called certificate of access.pdf. So if I go back to the access request program and I press generate document, it's going to generate the same, it's already there because I did this yesterday, but the certificate of access request right here would be generated and attached to this item simply by pressing generate document. And that document that becomes a PDF can look anything like that printout that you just had. You see what I'm saying? There's either print it out right there by pressing the print button, or go to generate document, and that generate document can be kicked off automatically through a workflow that says when the item's marked complete, generate this document and save it as an attachment to it. Another trick to this whole thing that I want to point out is that now that we have this thing called save attachment to OneDrive. Well, this is a custom action that kicks off a Microsoft flow. So what it'll do is say, okay, look if there's any attachments on this document. If there are, save them in a particular place that we designated in OneDrive, or it could be any other external system that has a flow connector. We're now instantiating or invoking, I guess you could say, a flow from within the NITRO Studio form. That's what I'm saying, best friends forever. I was saying earlier, this was a whole webinar we did on how you can integrate Microsoft Flow in with our custom actions here. It's pretty cool stuff, and it opens up so many possibilities that really we say, give us your, give us your poor, your distress. No, give us your form, your workflows to show what you have in InfoPath, or show what you have in some paper process, and we'll see how to implement it into NITRO Studio. It's so much things you can do with this. It's amazing. This custom actions, when all these different actions you can have here in a custom action, and of course you can have more than one. You can have multiple ones that cascade on each other. You can add a list item, update a list item. That means change the status of something in another list or whatever, or the same item. You can delete, you can upload a document, you can generate a document like I just did, you can send out email notifications, you can execute scripts like JavaScripts, you can invoke web services, which is really cool. You can invoke some kind of web service that does some kind of function on the outside. You can invoke workflows, SharePoint workflows, Nitro workflows, Microsoft flows. You can query a list, get some back data, and then use that later in, say, your other scripts up here. You could query a list to get some status of some, get some information, and then use that as iteratively to give you the information for the next workflow you want to run. It's quite a lot of things that can be done in the custom actions, and I hope you're using them in ways that are fruitful and beneficial to you. Now, those are user-initiated actions because there's a button that you click to make it happen. But the same idea goes for our Nitro workflows, which run behind the scenes. Nitro workflows are system-initiated by some kind of event inside the application, such as items created, and nobody's pressing a button. It's just there's a fact that something happened. Item was created, item was modified. There's real-time events that can happen on the form itself. When we're in the Nitro Studio form, where's the form design right here? You can come into our advanced and do form event actions, add JavaScript that will take place when somebody fills something out, like the employee ID. It will go out and query a database, external database, and pull back information in real time because you're going out and configuring this form event action to run a script that will create a database and pull the information in from whether it's on the form loading or when a value in the form changes. So you might type in the membership number if you're a membership organization, and at that time, if you configure this form event action, it will go out and query the database in that real time to get back information and execute the action of filling in update form controls, meaning that'll fill in different columns on the form itself with information it gathered from querying the database based on the member ID. So, I mean, these things get really, really interesting and perform the functions you need to automate and streamline your business process, right? That's one element of it. I said there's the custom actions, which are buttons on the form itself or up in the list ribbon. If you want to drop a custom action in, determine what custom action you want to run because you created it, you can do that. You can put a script action somewhere here. You can decide how big the button is and what code runs when you do that, or you can have something happen right on the form event itself, as well as have Nitro workflows run behind the scenes. Am I completely confusing and making it, part of the reason that we have to talk this way is because workflows and actions are very complex. But Nitro Studio is built to handle the load. I mean, that's what we do. That's our job. We build applications that are, some of the best ones for SharePoint and Office 365. And we give you Nitro Studio that far outclasses what most other systems inside of that run inside of SharePoint, saying they have forms and workflows. We're far outclassing a lot of what those can do because I mean, this is where what we do, and this feedback comes from an iterative, continuous conversation with our customers, such as we're having right now. Okay, it's going on and on and on, and I think we're up to an hour almost. I don't
Yeah,
know,
and I was
Jocelyn.
going to say, you've really answered everyone's questions, and folks are really pleased with what they're seeing. And so I think this is actually a good moment to say that we will follow up with you all with a recording of this, and we have some material that we can share for you. An ebook is about to come out that is going to go through some of the details, some of the migratory processes, as well as just what's setting this apart from others and so on. So we're happy to be here as resources to answer questions, but all in all, I think we're done, Scott.
Yeah, let's finish up that. It's really,
Okay.
anybody can talk to us anytime, one-on-one. We are not only go to shows, but we're also always available through, phone, chats, go to meeting, whatever, to answer the questions. And we see this as a journey we're on together to build, help you run your organization more efficiently, more productively. And what we can do, if we don't have it in Nitro Studio, we have a lot, but if we don't have some particular thing, we'll talk about how to put it in there. We've done, I think some of our customers can attest to that quite well, that Nitro Studio keeps advancing because as we encounter real world situations, we embed them in there and into Nitro Studio and advance together into this path of further business process automation. And also just stay tuned for all the stuff we're doing with AI services, which is a new area that is nascent, kind of a beginning area that we're working on, but we'll have a lot of future with the chatbots and natural language processing and other areas we can utilize whatever the latest and greatest stuff is from out there, technologies that are available. All right. So yeah, I think you're right, Jocelyn. That pretty much concludes it. And we hope to hear from people. Any questions, send them to us. We're glad to work with you further and help you. Okay. Help us, help you, whatever. Right. Okay. Everybody have a good day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, all. Take
We'll
it
have another
easy.
workshop. We'll have other workshops and webinars coming up. You can see them listed on our website, as well as events we're attending, like Chicago in December, SharePoint Fest, and other SharePoint Saturdays. But all that's on our website. Okay, everybody have a good day. Thank you. Bye.